Yo, 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 what is going up, O's fans? Welcome back to Orioles Theory, your number one-stop shop for all things Baltimore Orioles related. I'm your co-host, Tyler Barbaritz, and joined with me is none other than Orioles commentator and broadcaster, Brett Hollander. Brett, how you doing, man? Welcome onto the show.
Doing well, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Before we dive into sports talk with Mr. Hollander, let me give one quick shout out to our sponsor, O Squared Residential Design. Look, we know what it takes to build a winning team, and O Squared knows what it takes to build winning spaces. They're a woman-owned, family-operated company right here in Maryland, specializing in kitchen and bathroom renovations. Whether you're looking to restore, replace, or completely remodel, they deliver excellence in every square inch, serving homeowners across the state of Maryland. Check them out at osquaredesign.com. That's osquaredesign.com. All right, like I said, we're joined here with the one, the only Brett Hollander, commentator for the Baltimore Orioles. Brett, it's an honor to have you on today's episode. Thank you for finding some time to talk with us. I guess the first question that I want to ask you is, what's it like being able to call color for your hometown team?
It's a dream come true, Tyler. It's a dream that I started having at 6, 7, 8 years old, and I spent the next part of my life pursuing it in every way. And I'm just very fortunate and blessed to be a play-by-play broadcaster for the Orioles. When I would go to Camden Yards as a kid, or even going back to Memorial Stadium, I would look up to the broadcast booths and say, "That's where I want to be." So to be living that life and to do it in my hometown, where it really matters to me, is a dream come true.
Yeah, I bet. Was it ever all right, if I don't get the O's, I'm cool with the Ravens, or did you always have your sights set on the O's?
Well, I was fortunate enough to do Ravens football pre, post, halftime on their network for about 10 years and covered that team really hard for a long time. And I certainly dreamt of also having that job. You know, one of my heroes, Chuck Thompson, the
Sure.
greatest play-by-play man in the history of Baltimore sports. He did both the Colts and the Orioles. Now, the world's changed a lot. It's much harder to do both simultaneously. I feel just very fortunate to have this Orioles job. But I think the bigger question is I was willing to go anywhere for my career when I got started. And I never had to. I started climbing this ladder in Baltimore, and that is unique. It's not usually like that. Usually bang around the minor leagues if you're doing play-by-play, or even if you're just a talk show host, as I was. I shouldn't say just a talk show host. That's, a very challenging job. You're going small market, medium-sized market, big market. And I got very lucky, starting off actually doing traffic reports in Baltimore and just keep climbing that ladder in my hometown. But I realized, though, later in life, that I have absolutely no desire to do this job anywhere else. So what matters to me is the history. It is the generational connection that we have with our hometown teams and just the community itself. That although there are great places to be a play-by-play broadcaster, we're in Detroit right now. I actually love the ballpark. I love the history of the Tigers. It just wouldn't be home. And that, I think, is the difference when a lot of my colleagues, they're very comfortable bouncing around place to place. I'm a very simple person. My wife's from Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore. We're both raised here, or I should say in Baltimore. I'm in Detroit right now. Our kids are Baltimoreans. Our parents are still here. So this is just home, and there's no place I'd rather be. I love it in Baltimore.
It's a community at the end of the day.
It's a community, and yeah, I know the history well, and I've lived through so many of those big moments, and equally,
Sure.
Tyler, some of the tougher moments,
Yeah.
and we've shared that experience together, and that's why I think it's such a special relationship.
1,000%. And you just brought up, you've seen the good moments, you've seen the bad moments. What was one of those amazing good moments that you've had, whether it was in the booth, and then what was one of those bad moments that you've had?
Well, specifically to the booth, clinching a playoff spot in 23, clinching an AL East championship in the booth in 23. Those were very special moments being in those clubhouses. I mean, I was on the field in 2014 doing interviews when they won the division then. That was special in a different way in my
Right.
career. They're all really special. It's all pinch yourself kind of thing. I mean, I was somehow walking with Ray Lewis doing a lap around M&T Bank Stadium after he played his final snap as a Raven. And I think about that. I'm like, how did I get there? It's kind of like a Forrest Gump thing. And I look back just as a fan. I mean, I was at 21-31. I was at the first exhibition game ever at Camden Yards against the Mets. Was attended not the final game at Memorial Stadium, but the final weekend at Memorial Stadium. So I've been very lucky. Obviously, looking back at my moments, both as a fan and professional, the Delman Young double, being in the broadcast booth behind Joe Angel and Fred Manfred when that happened, and feeling the stadium shake up and down. Those are moments you never forget. But professionally, doing these Hall of Fame ceremonies and doing on days when someone like Chris Davis, who's going in on
Yeah.
Saturday, doing it for my longtime friend and someone I covered, Adam Jones last year, and Nick Markakis the year before that, and some of these other historical celebrations that we've had. The history of Camden Yards, the '83 World Series team a few years ago, which was in the middle of that '23 season, and there were 40+ thousand at Camden Yards those weekends. And I'm introducing Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken, and Rick Dempsey. I'm just like, how did I get here?
Right. And it seems like it's more than just work. It's friendships along the way. You meet people, you have moments to reflect, but at the end of the day though, sometimes it is just work. And it's the words that come out of your mouth and the way that you say it. So with that being said, do you have a favorite call in the booth? If so, what would it be?
Well, I would say the one I get stopped the most for is an Anthony Santander walk-off home run that I did on television against the Yankees. It was a 0-0 game, bottom of the ninth. It's Grayson Rodriguez versus Garrett
Garrett
Cole in a
Cole.
pennant race. We had like a 2-hour rain delay on a Friday night, and
He golfed that one out.
he golfed it out. I just
Cut
said
out.
Santander to right, Santander to right, and that baby's gone. And the simplicity of the call, I think, really resonated with people. And I think there's a lesson to young broadcasters that sometimes we try and be too clever and be these wordsmiths. But in the end, I just said Santander to right, elevated a little Santander to right. And I actually talked to my producer right afterwards. I thought I blew the call. But for some reason, it worked well with the pictures and it resonated with people. And it was as simple as can be. And I couldn't come up with anything more creative than saying Santander to right. So, but for some reason, that's the one people stop and talk to me about a lot. I won earlier this year. The Cows are walk up. We're playing the Tigers right now,
Yeah.
and Colton is going through it, and he hits this walk off against Kenley Jansen to win a game the Orioles really needed. And I was very upset with my call. I actually almost ran out of gas, which is so unprofessional of me in the call. But I think the sheer shock of the moment got me. But in that sense, it became a very authentic call. And that's me. Like, I wear it all on my sleeve.
Yeah.
My passion for Orioles baseball, my passion for the game, it's right there. And if that's not for you, there's nothing I can help you with. But the Cowser walk off, just thinking of recent history, the shock value of it. Here's a Kenley Jansen who might be going to the Hall of Fame. Cowser, who at the time was hitting on the interstates, and he wins the game with a really important walk off. And I just kind of gasped out, but I think it actually worked in a really weird way.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, you know? You were talking about your, Santander call. It was simple, but it hit. It was the way that you delivered it, and I'll never forget, I just graduated college, so I think I was going into my freshman year during that Santander walk-off game, and I was watching it at a buddy's house who were all Yankees fans, and I remember Santander hitting it and hearing your call, and I wasn't watching it at the time. I was like talking to one of my friends. Then I hear your voice, Brett. You go Santander to right. I look back and I'm like, yeah. So it was a great moment,
Yeah, it was a
and
special night. Special night.
1000%.
I'll never forget it. And I've been, again, I can't stress this enough. Sound like a broken record. I've been so lucky, right place, right time, and hopefully, Tyler, there will be, whether it's this year or next year or 5 years from now. Hopefully, if we're all around, many more great moments. But you take this job knowing that if you're lucky and you get to do it for a long time, there's going to be really thrilling and exhilarating seasons. There's going to be extremely disappointing seasons. And then there are going to be seasons that are just middling. And unless you're doing, I don't know, Yankees baseball, Duke basketball, uh, Patriots football for a 20-year stretch, that's kind of what the job is. And unfortunately, the broadcasters have no control over the game whatsoever. But you do, if you're lucky to hang around a long time, I was talking to this with some Detroit announcers, and they've seen it all. They've seen these great seasons, and a season where in 2014 they had Scherzer, Verlander, and Price lined up in a playoff series against the Orioles, and they were knocked out in 3 games. And they still think about that. They had their surprising season of 24 where they sold at the deadline, got hot, and made it to the postseason. And then they've had these disappointing seasons that they're going through now, and they've had 120 lost seasons here. And it's just what the job is. And in a very short window, this is my 7th season as a full-time Oriole broadcaster. I mean, I covered the team for 10 or 15 years before that. But in just this window here, we've had the expected rough seasons of 20 and 21, where it was, felt like no chance, long losing streaks, blowout losses every night, which really challenges you in a different way as a broadcaster. We've had the exhilarating season of 22, and I put that 22 team with my favorite Orioles team of all time, which is 2012,
Wow.
and the 89 team, which so many fans remember. And then you had that exhilarating season. Then you had just the wonderful season of 23, a really good playoff team in 24. And then you had the extreme disappointment of 25. So in just a 7-year window, we've kind of had every bit of it. So, and that's what the gig is. And I think baseball's become so volatile and just so hard to predict. So, to be expected that anything that involves any sort of good or bad expectations, you just never know. I mean, the game this year has so many Cinderella stories, like the White Sox. They have so many teams that would say they're disappointed with their season. The Orioles, Tigers, Mariners, the Blue Jays, who should have won the World Series last year. So the game has a bunch of teams that feel terribly about how they're performing right now.
Right. And now maybe we can get into, some of the things that we can't predict, but or we can't expect to see happen, but we can predict. And then that's some of the trade deadline things. We don't really know what the Orioles are going to do yet, but we do know that Michael Elias kind of likes to be aggressive, and it would be unlike him to sell back-to-back years. So, Brett, I posed the question to you. Who do you think the Orioles maybe need to target? What position of need, or do you have a player in mind that you think if they get them, you'll go, okay, this player is really going to elevate this team and get them to where they want to go?
Well, the obvious thing to me, Tyler, is right now, although the bullpen has performed so well, and it's kind of this makeshift bullpen, and it helps that they're getting great starting pitching, but I think they don't have a closer. And there have been so many tight ball games. And if you could get a closer, and they really probably need another lefty in that bullpen, and you could slot everyone down, you could really shorten games the way that they have guys throwing right now. So that's the first thing. If you're like really looking to make a run right now, adding someone in the 9th inning, I think would make this team much better in these tight ball games that they're playing. Obviously, the offense is deficient right now. And the question I cannot answer to you is when Blaze Alexander, Adley Rutschman, and Sammy Basayo are coming back. So it's hard for me to assess that. If they're coming back in a week or two, and that's more likely for someone like Basayo or Rutschman,
Right.
then you're not going to make a move for a catcher or a third baseman or something like that, or even a center fielder if you know you're going to get reinforcements soon. But I don't have an answer for that. But obviously, as this offense is constituted today, it feels short. It's been a disappointing offense just based on what the expectations were. Now, those expectations were built with, I think a lot of us thought Jordan Westburg was going to play this year. And there have been injuries, obviously. But it was, I think they're ranked right now 11th or 12th in runs scored, which, isn't terrible. It's better than middle of the pack, but it's not what we thought it would be. And then you take out those 3 guys I just mentioned. That's obviously a major blow. So it really depends on how long that trio will be out. If I'm Mike Elias, he has a better understanding of that than I do. But if you're looking just to okay, how can I make this team better for a stretch run and try and lock in as many wins and lock down as many wins as humanly possible? I'm adding a closer. Now, I think Brian Helsley might be back at some point, but great. Then you have two guys who can
Right.
help you out, and you can really shorten games. Yeah, everyone's going to say starter. Everyone's looking for a starter. I love this rotation right now. I think that, yeah, starter would help. They'll get Bassett back at some point. I think you're mostly worried about innings and starts for Kyle Bradish right now. So that's another question I really can't answer. But every team is looking for bullpen help, and every team is looking for rotation help. I look at this overall offense, though. You would love to get another right-handed hitting stick, and
Mhm.
perhaps a center fielder or center fielder of the future. So whether that's a right now problem or an off-season problem or something down the road, I don't know. But that's I think the state of this team as it's constituted right now.
Yeah, and I have been saying for months that they need a lefty. I was even saying it in the offseason, they still needed a lefty, and now they're at a point to where I think they absolutely 110% need a lefty. And I do think there are some names that are floating around, like Adrian Morahone is one from the San Diego Padres. He in my opinion, is neck and neck with Mason Miller. If you look at their baseball savant pages, they're
Yeah,
the exact same. Adrian Morhone is the left-handed version of Mason Miller. And then there are also other guys, Josh Haders, Jojo Romero, Tanner Scott, maybe. I know he's on the Dodgers, but there's certainly a lot of lefties. Do any of those names maybe pop out like a Morhone
yeah.
or
I certainly look at Morone as someone who'd be interesting. I don't know his contract status. I think if you're going to give up a major
range at the
piece,
end of the year?
if you're going to give up a major piece, you would love to have someone who is signed through next season as well. I look at Luke Weaver, who's right-handed. He would slot right into the ninth inning for the Orioles. He's on the Mets. His contract is through next year, and okay, Helsley will probably pick up his option for next season, and maybe Felix is back. But I love a good bullpen, and there are very few predictable pieces in baseball right now that you can count on in the back end of bullpens. Weaver's certainly one of them. And to me, Luke Weaver, a part of it next year. Andrew Kittredge will be a free agent. Whether Weaver's in the seventh, eighth, or ninth inning, to me, he just makes a ton of sense. So that's someone like that makes a lot of sense if you're going to give up a major piece.
Right.
Now, I think the tricky part is being where this team is and this muddled American League. What are you willing to give up
Mhm.
to try and scratch and claw your way to the postseason? Now, I look at the American League, and I think the National League isn't that dissimilar, other than they have the Dodgers. I look at this American League field. I'm not sure if any team really intimidates you. Now, the
Mhm.
Yankees and their starting pitching in a playoff series, yeah, sure, that's tough. Rays, uh, they're good. The Orioles have also swept the Rays this year. They've taken 2 out of 3 against New York. Orioles have taken 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. They should have taken 2 out of 3 or won all three against the Braves. Listen, I'm not making all the skies rosy and bright. The Orioles have lost a lot of games this year. They should have won. They are what the record is. But if you get into a postseason series and you have Bradish, Rogers, Boz, uh,
Young.
you're going to be competitive,
Yeah.
especially if you make improvements on this team.
1000%. A few more questions to wrap things up, and you kind of just got into that. But what do the O's have to do to make a postseason push? Trades outside of trades, like what do they have to do inside the clubhouse with the players that they have to make the playoffs?
Well, they got to play cleaner baseball. They lead baseball in unearned runs. There's like 11 or 12 games they would like back this year. Now, every team in baseball has a few of those. Every team. That's what's so beautiful. And I think gets lost day to day with fans. Like, it feels so bad for you in that moment. And trust me, I feel it. But no team, not the Yankees, not the Dodgers, no one is immune to it. We saw the Braves kick the ball around.
Yeah.
It's the Atlanta Braves all weekend long, missing pop ups, having balls go through their legs on what should have been a double play ball. It happens to every team. It's just happened to the Orioles a lot. And you have maybe 11 or 12 games you like back. If you flip 3 or 4 of them, you're in a much different situation right now.
In the
So you
playoffs.
got to play cleaner baseball. Um, they're getting good starting pitching. The American League is so weak. It would just be such a waste to not push right now, I think, in some ways, because these opportunities are so rare and they're fleeting. And when you have your starting pitching rolling like this, which is going on 2 months, you feel like you have to take advantage of it. And this makeshift bullpen, which I think is kind of fun, with Tyler Wells pitching the ninth inning, Rico Garcia off the scrap heap, Grant Wolfram getting 4 outs in his hometown last night. These guys were just available. And there's something that I think it's kind of endearing about that group. But they got to find a way, I think, to make more contact, as we saw last night, put the ball in play more. I think we're seeing Jackson Holiday really turn the corner, which is so exciting. And I always saw Jackson as someone who could be a 300 hitter and spray the ball around. I think, he'll be someone who can hit some home runs and hit a lot of extra base hits. But I think when he tries to be too big in his swing, that's not Jackson Holiday at his best. He's at his best getting on base, and he's an athletic guy, and you want guys like that on base. So they need somebody else not named Pete Alonso to get rolling. And then the very obvious thing, Tyler, is Gunnar Henderson. And this season may be no more or less complicated than Gunnar Henderson having a well below average season. It's like having a star quarterback play below their capabilities or be hurt. And there's no NFL team that can make up the difference for that. The Toronto Blue Jays, who were the best team in the American League last year, they are way worse than the Orioles. And it's because their star player is having a Gunnar Henderson like season. When your star player, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., has 6 home runs right now, 6 home runs, there's only the ceiling's only so high. And I hate to put it on one person because it's the ultimate team game, but we all know what Gunnar's capable of, and you hope at some point it just clicks for good. I think he said it better than anybody. When he tries too hard, it's very obvious, and it's very hard to be as great as he's capable of being. I mean, he's just oozing with talent. He's having almost an accidental season where he's going to hit 25 home runs, and he'll probably hit 30 doubles. But it's not the Gunnar we know and love. And there's still a third of the season or so to go. It could click tonight, and he can not look back and carry this team to the postseason.
That would be something. Final question, and this is a question from my co-host Clay, who sadly couldn't make today's episode. But Clay asks, Brett, who's your favorite player that you've covered over the years?
Oof. I have a very special relationship with Adam Jones. He and I go back so long at this point. We first met each other in 2008. He was traded over from Seattle. I was new on the scene, and for whatever reason, maybe it's because he married a Baltimore girl, and who knows? But we've always had a special relationship, and we always we stay in touch. We make plans with each other, and I just love how he played with his emotions, and he cared so much about the team and the town. He still does, by the way, and he cares so much about the community. I've there's so many players over the years that I would have to really sit down and think about, whether it's from just a relationship standpoint. Ryan O'Hearn is one of those guys that I'll remember the rest of my life, and I'll always cherish our friendship beyond baseball. And a very special individual who just loved his time in Baltimore. There's so many now. I mean, I think, I don't know if fans really appreciate the real Adley Rutschman, who's like a hilarious dude, loved by his teammates, really a leader on a team. And, it's hard for some of that to get conveyed in short sound bites before and after games. And I understand that too. But I would have to look back. I mean, I always love watching Nick Markakis play, if you want to go from my era. But growing up beyond Cal, my favorite player growing up was Mike Mussina. And I always say this to Ben McDonald, and they were always linked together, obviously, as 2 first-round picks in the rotation together forever. But I mimicked everything Mike did. And in Little League, I everything that I saw Mike Mussina do, I did. And I was Mike Mussina, as pathetic as this is, I feel saying it, on Halloween in 3rd grade. I mean, I worship Mike. And so my memories go back a very long time. There are a lot of role players over the years that I felt were very special, whether to cover, like Ryan Flaherty and dudes like that. So we've been fortunate. A lot of great ball players and a lot of really nice super individuals have come our way. And it's we've been lucky. It's a organization with a great tradition and great history, even in frustrating times, Tyler. And I understand frustration from fans. But you take a step back. I love our history. I love the players that have come through and worn the orange and black with pride. And there are better days to come. I can promise you that.
Yeah, 1000%. And whenever those days come, I
We'll
will
be
be
there,
looking
right? That's what
for.
a fan is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have to wait, I have to see, but I'm gonna stick through it through
It's
through
going to
through the
make those times so much more special. And I think
1000%.
anyone who lived through the 22 season or the 12 season or the 89 season really understand that you only really understand the top of the mountain if you've been in the lowest valley. And that's kind of what fandom is. And as fans, you have no control over it. And it can be frustrating. And baseball's tough because it's a 6 month campaign. You wear every loss, and it's a huge marathon. And I'm not saying we should be happy with the season below expectations, obviously, but you look around, the Orioles aren't the only team,
Right.
and it's a tough assignment being a fan because the thing is it's through thick and thin, and it's not for everybody. I mean, it's just not. It's a very hard thing to commit to something like that. We all, I think, kind of get hooked at a certain age, 8, 9, 10 years old, and then on certain nights we curse that feeling that why do we get ourselves into this? There's got to be something better to do with our lives than agonizing over these games, but maybe there isn't. And I think that's kind of part of it that it's this very special thing where you believe in it because it's your town, it's your community, it's this thing you grew up with that's been passed down generationally, and it's a very special thing. It's kind of unique to us.
It is, and that's why I decided to start this Orioles podcast to give myself an outlet to where me and a few buddies and we can bring on guests to where we can talk about it and grow the brand of Orioles baseball, grow our opinions, and hopefully, start something that people can latch onto and enjoy listening and watching. So you coming on the show, Brett, 1000% helped us complete that objective and get closer to that goal. So for that, we thank you. Please
Thank you.
let the
Appreciate it, Tyler.
yeah, please let the people know where they can find you on Twitter,
Well,
Instagram, all that stuff.
whatever about Twitter at Brett Hollander, but I will say we now have an Orioles Clubhouse podcast that's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That is just our post game show on radio. So highlights you'll hear from Craig Albernez, other insights to the game, next game preview. But I'm really proud that we did this. It's just our post game show on radio, but just to hear our radio highlights, wake up with it,
Yeah.
Orioles Clubhouse, the podcast, and it's just a way to kind of regurgitate last night's game and just to kind of rehash it and then wake up with it, hopefully after a win, and hear the highlights after the game. And I think it's a great way to follow the club every day. It's a very short podcast, just going back over the night before, or you can catch it that night before you go to bed. But check that out.
1000%. Everyone, make sure to do so. That's going to wrap things up. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Orioles Theory. For Tyler Barbaras, but Brett Hollander, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Go O's.